Don't most of these quality of earnings just confirm what was written in the sim? Don't most background checks come back and say the person isn't an axe murderer? But what about the 1 or 2 times when you find out that person is an axe murderer? Do you think about the 8 times you paid for the background check and it didn't come back any different? But what if I pushed you further and said 40% of these deals are fraudulent? Not messy financials, not oops, not 10% off, completely fraudulent, like you're going to the poorhouse. But because you don't want to spend, you want to call it a task that doesn't need to be done. Well, let's talk about it more. In this podcast that I had with some M&A attorneys, we go back and forth around how many of these deals are fraudulent, why it's so important to get a quality of earnings, and maybe we change your mind because you should think about this a bit differently. So now on to the conversation.
And this is going to sound like a sales pitch for QoE, but it's because it is, right? Like, no, I tell, this is what I tell everyone, listen, this is too important of a decision.
Yeah.
And I've had some bad things happen to me in life. I've had setbacks. I've made mistakes. You know, not everything has gone perfectly. The times with which I've done everything I could have conceivably done to get it right, and it didn't work out. You know what? I've always found the silver lining. I've been comfortable with it. It's the times that I didn't. And there's those little things, those little breadcrumbs that I'm thinking about late at night where I'm going, like, if I had just done X, Y, and Z, you know, and I'm kicking myself and I'm thinking about my kids and I'm just like, it's not worth it to cut corners when this is not, I mean, people talk about buying a home as being their largest lifetime transaction. This is that times 10. This is not buying a business. This is buying a new life.
Last year, about 80% of the deals came out of QoE in a place where even if they were off, like you said, Eric, there was a way to renegotiate it to still get a deal done. It wasn't like maliciously just totally off. This year, 40 to 50% of my deals have been completely fraudulent.
Completely fraudulent.
Completely fraudulent. I'm talking about people adding $1 million of deposits into a bank account, trying to claim it was customers that paid in cash, but there's no invoices.
Say that again for effect. How many?
$1 million worth of cash was deposited into a bank and credited as revenue.
No, what percentage is what?
Yeah, no, I mean the percentage.
40, about 40 to 45% of the deals this year have been like fraudulent.
That is mind blowing.
Now, I will say I am not the cheapest quality of earnings provider. So I think that there's some bias there. And I think people who have tough deals are more likely to come my way out of fairness, right? But there's probably been $50 million of purchase price that I've saved people from going to the poorhouse. Like, it was completely fraudulent. I had an accountant on a call after he tried to filibuster me and like outlast saying BS on phone calls. And finally he said, you know, we understand GAAP, but we just don't adhere to it here at this company. It was like a $2.7 million EBITDA business that was really throwing off like 1.3.
Wow.
With an adjustment, when we knocked off the first $500,000 adjustment, you know, these fools came with another $500,000 adjustment, calling it prepaids that they hadn't talked about before. I mean, this crazy stuff is happening.
So they threw,
and these are all people with great brand names on their firms. I had another company where the company was using a company that basically your customer pays this company because they're only going to pay that company in 30 days. You need the money now. It's like factoring. And the factoring company's information did not match the company's information. And on a low EBITDA or SDE business, it was like there were probably 4 or 5 things in the deal that were potential issues that would have been bigger than the whole of the EBITDA that was being purchased.